prioritizing being and presence and the moment and the now, and how much vitality can come from that process. Today, we are reading The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. One of the most popular spiritual books ever written. One of the reasons I never picked up this book when I was a kid is because you would find it in the supermarket line. Your mom would recommend it to you. And I sort of, I was a philosophy major, so I said, that's not serious. Until I got broken up with. About 2 or 3 years ago, I went through a breakup and felt sort of lost. I had put a lot of my validation and my ego on this one person to sort of be their exception. I'll be the one that you like. A lot of you are probably going through this right now, and that's like a mini rock bottom. I've certainly had worse rock bottoms, but there's always some precipitating event that leads you out to the park, or where I am today, LA National Cemetery. A cemetery is an interesting place to think about now. When you pass away, you are no longer in the now. You may believe in reincarnation or some sort of energy that continues, but we know that we have access to the now, right now. I'm in the now. I'm shooting a video, I'm in a cemetery, I'm wearing my favorite sweater. It's a good day. But one day, I won't have that option. So the sooner, and this happens in our old age, by the way, your knees start going, your back starts going, all your friends start dying, and you go, oh my gosh, so how many sunsets am I gonna have left? How long until I feel I can get rid of this low-level anxiety I carry with me and just be? And this is a book about how to be, how to live, how to feel. And when you can feel good because you're connected to a larger picture, and because you realize that every time you go and visit your own breath and your own body, you can experience some joy. If you feel like you have that ability, you will have fewer conflicts in relationships. You will feel less fear of abandonment from your manager or your parents or your friends, a less needy way, a less desperate way. Open, clear, non-emotional, just being. And so that's the basic gift that he's trying to give with this book. You may feel like you have heard this before. Let Eckhart Tolle do his dirty work.
We'll have a deal. I make you feel complete and you make me feel complete. It sounds good when you say it like that.
I know about meditation, I know about what you're supposed to do, but somehow this guy made the problem so clear to me that the awareness of what I've been doing for my entire life and how easy it would be to live a less stressful life really motivated me to put it into practice and start coming to the park. And actually, it's the reason I started my book club in the first place. If you are in a relationship with yourself, first and foremost, and with someone else, you're gonna wanna start observing your thoughts and emotions from a distance. We're all aware of that, right? Meditation, just watch the ships float down the stream. Don't get attached. Don't chase a thought. Don't chase an emotion. When you feel an emotion, ask yourself, is it in my chest or my stomach? Because that's where most people feel it. Is it tingling? Is it warm? Is it pumping? Is it tight? Mine's tight. It's anxiety. Tight. Like a thicket of thorns around my heart. And I literally have to breathe like until it thaws or begins to loosen up, and I can beat. Boom, boom, boom. So start to get used to the biology of your emotions. For women, he mentions this is easier because women have a better emotional awareness and intelligence. For men, they tend to get thought in mind games. With the mind game, same thing. Don't just think. Every thought is the voice of God. Every thought is the truth as I will ever know it. A thought is like a free throw. It's your subconscious brain going, let's see if we can get this one in. What about that? Oh, you got a problem. Bucket, 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 bucket. And it's just throwing whatever it can. Some of those go in and some of them don't. But we tend to sit around thinking about the ones that don't. Just let your subconscious throw things up and then step back, start to see them in a bigger picture. I think what Eckhart Tolle has done here is basically said, enlightenment is not a faraway idea. We like to think there's one, the Dalai Lama. The truth is, we all experience moments of enlightenment. We experience moments of enlightenment when we're in a flow state, when we're making love, when we're looking at a sunset, in it. And we get brief glimpses of that. And what Eckhart Tolle is saying is, that's not some complicated thing. That's literally just disengaging from your thoughts, watching what's going on inside of you and accepting what's going on around you. He says, and I've noticed this in my life, when you let go and begin practicing accepting things instead of feeding your anxiety like it's going to come and save you, you notice that you're more effective, you're more profitable. You don't feel FOMO and try to multitask as much. So here's the story of Eckhart Tolle. He's sort of a funny character. A lot of people get turned off when they hear his voice because he talks a little bit like this. There is so much to experience in the wonderful here and now.
And then you drink. And the taste is so incredible. It's water, it's amazing, it's liquid, alive, it's liquid. No, I haven't taken acid before coming here.
And it's actually kind of relaxing after a while, but at first you're like, who is this guy in a cardigan? And why am I listening to him?
Complete non-resistance, and you'll be very surprised what you feel suddenly. And even the noise might be transformed, and the pneumatic drill might be saying, Om, Om.
Until my 30th birthday, I lived in a state of almost continuous anxiety interspersed with periods of suicidal depression. In this moment, the thought occurred to him, or the statement in his head came up, I cannot live with myself anymore. How many of you have said something like that? I can't live with myself anymore. But what that triggered in him was the realization that there is an I and a myself in that sentence, meaning there's a split in each of our consciousnesses. We sort of have the watcher, and then we have this doer, or this thinker, or this feeler, and we're negotiating between the two of them. When he was separating from the myself and sort of taking a step back from that, he was entering a more shared consciousness. Collective consciousness is what Carl Jung called it. The connective tissue between us. If you look at trees, there's a network between them. If you look at mushrooms, there's a mycelial network. So spirituality is about getting out of touch with me, and getting in touch with the big grand story going on around us. And just doing that for a moment elicits joy. His belief is that joy is the baseline of being. Children experience joy. Dogs. Look at a dog. A dog's just joyful all day long. Even, I recently went out to a park and I saw a dog on its last day. Its owners were taking it out. They're going to put it down tomorrow. And I started, tearing up a little bit because the dog was feeling so much joy. You could tell it was in pain, but its tongue was out and it was wagging its tail. And it was just like, yeah, death is a detail amongst many other details, but I'm in it. I'm feeling, look at that ball. Look at that. Oh my God, squirrel. Squirrel. Why do we keep buying dogs? Why do we want to be around a golden retriever as much as possible? Because they are experiencing the joy of a different kind of consciousness that Eckhart Tolle began to get a taste of here in his suicidal depression. Keep in mind, if you're down low, that means you're the most likely to have a spiritual awakening. Typically, we don't revolutionize our thinking or really do something we've been putting off for a long time until we feel like we have to. So don't always shame the depression. Sometimes they're setting you up. So this is sort of like a sober psychedelic experience he had. For people who haven't taken mushrooms, especially, or LSD, or had like a psychedelic, or even sat in a float tank, or done a meditation retreat, or done like really intense Kundalini yoga, There's a lot of avenues to what I might call the psychedelic experience, and it's very similar to what I'm describing. You can think what I'm saying, go, yeah, I'm connected to nature, I get it, and my mom and everything, but what does that have to do with me right now? The psychedelic experience is no longer thinking it, it's seeing it and believing it and understanding, oh my gosh, I don't need to be convinced. This is it. I can't believe I was so stressed about what kind of pencil I was going to use today. If you haven't had that experience, just rest assured, Eckhart Tolle didn't need to take any drugs to have this. He just used a rock bottom moment and a sense of openness that came after that. Give yourself permission to let go of what you've been doing. Has it been working? That's the question. If what you're doing is working, oh my gosh, don't rock the boat too much. But if there's something that's really not working in relationships or in your own personal sense of satisfaction, you might say, I could spend a week focusing on this and allowing focus. And Eckhart Tolle does say, you need to focus to have a spiritual awakening. You need to focus to stay in the present moment. It's not like just sleeping. It's not being in the coma from Inception, dream state for 400 years. No, it's sharpening an awareness. And anybody who's taking mushrooms, same thing. Sharpening. Your visual acuity grows. If you're having sort of a spiritual moment, you should notice more, like you're widening. And Eckhart Tolle basically says, when you let go of ranking your experiences so much and trying to control them so tightly, you enter a sort of everything is perfect way of being. And that loosens up your chest, slows down your thinking, and it's like you're in bullet time from the Matrix. Like, I'll leave this park today. If I had meditated instead of doing this video, I'll leave like I'm walking in slow motion. Everything is very intentional. And I have to do that every day to maintain that. It's something I want to do because it feels so good to embrace the cracks in myself instead of just shaming them, self-flagellating. I'm not good enough today either. Come on, admit it. We're all doing that. What if he's right? Wouldn't you want to find out if without any extra resources, you could be much happier. You could prioritize something that would lead to a better life. I certainly hope he's right. Yeah, I wrote here, imagine you discovered Narnia when no one wants to go there with you.
You may return to your world at any time if you desire. The choice is yours. But be warned.
He left.
What? Go.
My liege?
Yes.
Chad, why did you leave?
I was bored.
Can you come back for a moment? We weren't done.
Okay.
The cave dwellers in Plato's cave allegory, they're not going to be very receptive to a new way of thinking until they're at their wit's end, until they've run out of things to do. We want to trust that the way things are is the way they should be until there's irrefutable evidence against it. So when life hands you that irrefutable evidence, that's the moment. That's the moment you give them this book, like my friend Matt Huff gave me this book after the breakup I mentioned. And once again, I'd never meditated, read many spiritual books, spent much time in a park or in nature, and now it's a part of my schedule. I never go from an experience in nature and then go home and Netflix or furiously masturbate or gamble or whatever people do to pass the time. I always go from that to something very intentional and growth oriented. So here's Eckhart on the bench. For the next 5 months, I lived in a state of uninterrupted deep peace and bliss. After that, it diminished somewhat in intensity. I realized that nothing I ever did could possibly add anything to what I already had. So let's stop on that. He uses the metaphor coming up here of it's a story of a man sitting on a chest begging for money. For 30, 40 years he's begging, sitting on this little chest. And then somebody finally comes up and says, hey, what's in the chest? He goes, oh, I've never even looked. And then he opens it up and it's full of gold. In other words, what he was seeking from other people And obviously this is a metaphor for the validation we seek from other people. What he was seeking from them was sitting right underneath his butt meat, his little cheeks. What are you missing in this moment? When you really stop, what's missing right now? 300 more people on the live? A less itchy sweater? Like, I could come up with things, but I love this sweater and I love you people. And it's the wrong focus. And even if I had those things, I might have more stress. I might not be ready for it. I might get so freaked out I never do it again. So you can't predict what would make a moment better or not, but when you are at peace, really ask yourself, is there anything? Do I really need a boat? Like, would a boat right now make this feeling of being alive better? Because how often are you on the boat? We are always in this boat. This boat, any attention, any focus you bring to this, you will carry into everything you do, including the boat. And like I said, most of us are anxious, miserable, crazy, and not earning, not getting a boat, not having great marriages, not having great relationships, not raising an amazing generation. Most of us are not where we want to be. What if being happy, being present, is a way to do both? Even if it's not, you're going to be a happy, present shoe polisher. Right? Glimpses of love and joy or brief moments of deep peace are possible whenever a gap occurs in the stream of thought. For most people, such gaps happen rarely and only accidentally in moments when the mind is rendered speechless, sometimes triggered by great beauty, extreme physical exertion, or even danger. Suddenly, there is inner stillness. All of these flow states. Can you imagine how much people spend tens of thousands of dollars to jump out of planes? I know one guy, he was telling me it's $10K, to get the license and everything. So you can jump out of a plane, so for 45 seconds, you can be in the present moment and thus experience joy. How crazy is that? How much do we go to have that sexual release? You know what I mean? Just for, like how long does a male orgasm last? And boy, do we put everything on the line for that little brief piece of stillness. And yet, if we come out here and we start growing stillness, you know what I mean? We start planting it, it starts fruiting off the tree and we're feeling it every day. Guess what? You have a lot more sex and you'll probably be able to afford jumping out of a plane because you are a stillness machine. Everybody wants to be around it. It's much easier to achieve these external forms of stillness and release when you got a bakery, you're making them. I was stunned by the strange realization that my mind stopped. I was fully conscious, but there were no more thoughts. Then I felt drawn into what seemed like a vortex of energy. I was gripped by an intense fear and my body started to shake. I heard the words resist nothing, as if spoken inside my chest. Remember how I said about the chest? I could feel myself being sucked into the void. It felt as if the void was inside myself rather than outside. Suddenly, there was no more fear and I let myself fall into that void. Whew! Might sound scary. Might sound like a lie. You might go, this guy's lying to sell books. Easy. Of course, dismiss it. Keep doing what you're doing. But what if he's not lying? What if that weird vortex experience happened to him? Because I can tell you it's happened to me. I was literally in front of my mirror with my hands on the side, looking at myself going, like having sort of a, shaking moment. And then I ran the fastest 4 miles I've ever run. So intensity, What's up, my friend?
I have to have water. Sorry.
The water's turning on?
Yeah.
How soon?
Now. It's not always.
All over here?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry.
Do you think it hits here?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Maybe try.
Let's get to relationships before these sprinklers take me out, right? Because I promised you all relationships. Enlightened relationships. I said at the beginning, you need a spiritual awakening before you can be happy in a relationship. Maybe from listening to the foundation of what a spiritual awakening can be for you, you've started to understand why it's a little bit easier to ask somebody else to join your life and to accept who they are without freaking out if you've got this inner stillness. If a leaf on a tree can make you go, oh my God, look at that beautiful leaf. Or you can have fun in a cemetery like I'm having right now. it's a lot easier to just have a good time with somebody. And, we've built relationships into these massive things, but really they are just a vibe fest. So bring a good vibe.
They want some kind of concept to fit that into the meal. Is the meal a date or is it not a date? It's just a concept. We're having a meal together, that's all. Does this relationship have a future? No, of course not. There is no future.
I always thought that true enlightenment is not possible except through love in a relationship. Isn't that what makes us whole? This is where Eckhart's going to get a little, I call it hardcore Eckhart. He says, is that true in your experience? That when you have love, you feel whole? Has it happened to you? Not yet, but how could it be otherwise? In other words, you are waiting for an event in time to save you. Salvation is not elsewhere in place and time, it is here and now. So just, if you got the one itis, if you've got the sense that, the one who got away, or you just feel like you can't deal with the person that you're with, understand it's not about them. It's about you. It's about both of you going internal, finding that connection to something larger than yourself, and then building something together in that stillness. True salvation is fulfillment, peace, life in all its fullness. You cannot be in conflict if you're living a full life. You ignore stuff. It just flies right by you. Oh, yeah, I guess I am an idiot. Okay. Yeah, you just pat people on the head. Okay, I love you. Bye. Don't live in hope. Hope is the flip side of lack. I can't remember if I wrote that or he did. I think I wrote that. Yeah, hope says, I hope I have something I lack right now. Instead of I hope this, I have this. I hope this, I have this. This makes me mad, this is happening. Just bring it back. Bring it back. But that is sort of the move. Like if you were learning a right jab in a kickboxing class, that's the move you got to start with. From this foundation of getting to know what's inside of me, I'm able to lead it. I'm able to be a leader of myself. Many of us want to lead other people. I know I did. I wanted to give advice before I could take my own advice really well. So I'm trying to lead myself and then let everything else follow. Okay, love-hate relationships. Until you access the consciousness frequency of presence, all relationships, and particularly intimate relationships, are deeply flawed and ultimately dysfunctional. They may seem perfect for a while, such as when you are in love, but invariably that apparent perfection gets disrupted as arguments, conflicts, dissatisfaction, and emotional or even physical violence occur with increasing frequency. Love can then turn into savage attack, feelings of hostility, complete withdrawal of affection. This is considered normal. Yeah, normal's not good. It is not uncommon for couples to become addicted to these cycles. Their drama makes them feel alive. Everyone's seen that. I don't even need to go into that. On the positive side, you are in love. You feel intensely alive. Your existence has suddenly become meaningful because someone needs you, wants you, and makes you feel special, and you do the same for him or her. When you are together, you feel whole. The feeling can become so intense that the rest of the world fades into insignificance. However, you may also have noticed that there is a neediness and a clinging quality to that intensity. Yeah, because if something that is that good requires another puzzle piece, you're going to make sure that puzzle piece don't leave, right? That's why are you going to the gym? Who are you talking to? What's going on? Or just, constant criticism so they feel low and stay with you. These games people play. There's a great book called Games People Play. He lists them all the different relationships that we have to fulfill our lack, when in reality, there's a way to get the juice of life without another person. I mean, we need people. I don't think a human being can be sane and live in complete isolation. It's considered a form of torture. But to say I need one thing, I need one person, I need this apple instead of that apple, it makes you beholden to that person and them beholden to you, and you begin to manipulate in order to protect your sense of aliveness, your sense of I'm not going to be a whole person if I lose this. If you feel like a whole person before you go into a relationship, that's two whole pies coming together instead of trying to take each other's slices. If that person left, you would still be who you are. We pick lovers, we pick political parties, we pick identity groups, we pick sports teams. That was the funniest one for me. I mean, I've seen people fight to the death over a Buccaneer. It's easy to identify with these things because they seem to come pre-packaged with a feeling of wholeness. As you sit in that stadium or in that relationship, you feel whole. All you gotta do is pay a little bit, you know? And that's tempting, but why not? That's like having crutches or those little polio knee braces that Tiny Tim had. I want your knees to be strong. Avoidance of relationships in an attempt to avoid pain is not the answer either. The pain is there anyway. Here's why relationships are good. 3 failed relationships in as many years are more likely to force you into awakening than 3 years on a desert island or shut away in your room. But if you could bring intense presence into aloneness too, you could find it that way. So basically what he's saying is you got to go through some pain. Okay? So you can go through the pain on your own or you can go through it in relationships, but take each pain. I never waste pain. It's like Rahm Emanuel said, never waste a good tragedy. He was talking about 9/11. It's pretty messed up. But that's how politicians think. They use a tragedy because they realize people are going to be susceptible and motivated to change the way they think about things. You can pass legislation, you can start a war. But on a positive side, pain internally does the same exact thing. I have enough reason to do something I've never done before. I came out here because of a breakup. If I had stayed alone and never exposed myself to those things until I was spiritually awakened, that's why I shouldn't say you need a spiritual awakening first. You just need it to have a happy relationship. But relationships, unhappy relationships, I've learned more from those than my happy ones because they led me to this. The greatest catalyst for change in a relationship is complete acceptance of your partner as he or she is without needing to judge or change them in any way. That's hard to do, but if you remind yourself of it pretty much every time before you talk to somebody you care about, you will be charming. You will be funny. You will be flowing. You'll be non-needy. You won't be worried. You'll be a yes person. To relinquish judgment does not mean that you do not recognize dysfunction and unconsciousness when you see it. It means being the knowing rather than being the reaction. Learn to give expression to what you feel without blaming. Yeah, these are all just great practical bits. I think we struggle with relationships the most in our culture. We have a real hard time coming together and staying together. Myself included. It's definitely the thing I've struggled with the most. So it's good to focus on it. If you cannot be at ease with yourself when you are alone, you will seek a relationship to cover up that unease. You can be sure that the unease will then reappear in some other form within the relationship, and you will probably hold your partner responsible for it. All you really need to do is accept this moment fully. You are then at ease in the here and now and at ease with yourself. The whole world seems like waves or ripples on the surface of a vast and deep ocean. You are that ocean. Of course, you are also the ripple. Identify with the ocean. How can you be mad at your partner? It'd be like being mad at this ripple. Connected. We are everything. There are no borders or boundaries if we look close enough. It's true. Look around here. Where are the borders? Where are the boundaries? We're all the same. We come from the same, we go to the same. We might be the same the whole time. Thank you to those of you who have subscribed here. I hope you all get some value out of it. And then we're going to be getting some great interviews. I'm going to reach out to all the authors I'm doing books on, do road trips. So check it out. Just in time, my friend. I'm heading out.